letting that trauma live, and something that's happened to you in the past doesn't have to affect you now. It could be a situation that you're in, then you might need to get out of that situation. But I think you just need to let it live and then let it go.
True. Yeah, letting go is really, really important. Once I learned to let go, it really helped me to live better. Welcome to the How to Heart Show, helping men reconnect to the heart and empower others as the leaders they were born to be. I'm Vincent Haasboom. The world needs the raw and authentic men right now. Join us if you're ready to make a change. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the How to Heart Show. And I'm really amazing special guest. I'm here with Paul Guyon. And what I liked about him was his story. When the first time we've met, he had such an inspiring story, and it really blew my mind. And I really wanted to have him on the show. And he's really inspiring, and he has so much to share. And also his way of coaching and inspiring other men, and also with his business, it's really, really cool to have him here. And I want to learn more about him and his story, so that's why I brought him on. So Paul, welcome to the How to Heart Show.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I love your intro. That was great.
Yeah, I recently let it made with an editor, so I love it. It's really, really cool. So yeah, thank you. I will pass it on the compliment. But Paul, yeah, it's really cool that you are here, and I want to again say thank you for being here. And what I want to ask you in a nutshell is who you are and what you do.
Well, that could be a simple or a deep question. And so let me start simply. I'm simply a believer, a father, and a husband. From there, it goes on. I'm a coach. I'm a drummer and a singer. I'm very faith and God-centered. My wife and I have a Christ-centered Christian marriage. Both of us, it's our third time around, so a third time's a charm. We're seniors. But like I said, we're believers, and I'm a father. And when I married my wife 4 years ago, her name is Sharon, I took on 3 more children, and 2 of them are girls. And I've always wanted to have a girl. And I told her that I always wanted to have a girl named Grace. If I ever had a girl, I would name her Grace. Well, I never did have a girl. I've got 3 boys. And well, she's got 2 girls, and then she's got one in heaven named Grace. And I went, oh, so now I have a daughter in heaven named Grace, and I've got 2 on earth who adore me. And one, the oldest, her name is Kat. She adopted me as her father, and I adopted her, spiritually as my daughter. I have a spiritual daughter and 2 daughters on earth now, which is just an amazing responsibility and honor. And those things that you always wanted to do, well, they're grown. Daddy's girl takes on a new meaning, I think. My mission is to treat my wife in a way that a woman should be treated, with respect and with honor and grace. I open the door for her. I tuck her in when she gets into the car. I put her seatbelt on for her so that my girls and my sons can see what it's like to be treated by an authentic man. When people see us in the parking lot and a man and a woman are walking by and they see me do that, she looks at him and goes, hey, you should be doing that. And it's just the little things that I think are meaningful. So that is just a little personal anecdote. You asked me who I am. I'm a man of a deep mission. And when I was about 27, my father and I didn't have a really great relationship. I was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, being a musician and a drummer. I was also an athlete, and I chose the other path. I didn't choose the college and the things that were expected of me because of my brothers. They'd all went to college and were athletes and everything. I went down the druggy route with the rock and roll and all the trappings that go along with that. And that's really dominated my life for many, many years. But back to that moment when I was 27 years old, I'm in business computer information technology. So my first big sale was to my mother and father's medical office practice. And we had gone live that week, and my dad had been in the hospital because he'd been sick. He'd been sick for a number of years. And we started to come around, we started to make amends with each other. But when he was in the hospital, I remember going it was a Sunday, and I said, Dad, we went live this week and we discovered $80,000 in unbilled Medicaid insurance, and we just billed it in just the nick of time. We almost lost the ability to claim that money, but we got the money, and we're billing electronically. And this is back in the 80s. We're billing Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan and Medicaid electronically, which is, pretty cool. Well, that was his, he said, Paul, I want you to make me a promise. Carry on, help your mother carry on with the practice, help her carry on with her medicine. And later that day, he died. So that was a deathbed promise that changed my life. It changed my direction. He had told me previously to get into computers and to get into management, and I took the short route, but I did do that. And so today my mission is to help business owners use technology and use marketing and use leadership to grow ethically with their core values, those core values that my parents instilled in me so many years ago. So that promise became my sacred mission.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing. And it must have been also hard when someone you love and then you made a promise. I feel like if I would do it and I would make a promise to somebody, I would doubt myself if I can really make that promise fulfill. So yeah, my respect to you, Paul, for make that promise complete.
Well, it was a promise, and it took me quite a while to. Of course, I went and I pursued my career in IT. I've been the chief information officer of a $55 million company when I left back in I think 2004. It took me a while to get over the loss of that business, but I've always been helping people like my parents because of their example with the way that they treated their patients. And if they couldn't pay, they would barter with them or they would just write it off. Their practice was a mission to them, a sacred mission to them. And so I didn't realize that I was doing that until I did what my dad said was, examine your conscience and reflect on yourself, do that often. And I never understood what he meant until he was passed and I, grew up. But I didn't realize that that's what I had been doing until I had to tell the story of that. And I realized that it was a lifelong mission. So it's not a perfect alignment, as life is messy. Life is very messy. And my life has been messy. I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be here telling you this on the show today if I hadn't experienced all that.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you, Paul, because for me, as also with my journey, I was addicted to pornography for decades. I struggled a lot with my self-worth, with my mental health, with trusting myself. And it took me years and years and years to really start healing myself, start to love myself. But once the podcast came into my life and I started doing this, I felt a sense of purpose. Finally, I had something in my life that I can do. Because when I was younger, I was just playing video games, just going out, and my life felt so meaningless. But now doing this, helping men, it's so important for us men to have a purpose, right? Really something that you can do and have on long term. You can be successful in what you do, but also help people as you go.
Totally. Serving first, I think, is something that people don't talk about in leadership because men have to be strong and they can't have emotion and they're expected to hustle, and we do. But being a servant and being humble, having humility are core virtues that I think that men need to show so that others can be that way too. The more humble you are, the more grateful you are. The more grateful you are, the more abundant you become, whether it be in your health or in your life or your finances or your relationships. Just having a servant leader heart like you teach is, I think, paramount to leadership in men today. And that's what makes a man authentically true to what his calling is. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and I really want to go back at the beginning what you said, Paul, with being with the courtship with your wife, just opening the door and in the car. Why do you think that's so important? Because I do the same. When I see a stranger, a lady comes up to me and I see she's really close to the door, I open the door for her. I don't know her who she is, but I like to do it. It's nice and you see people smile and they're grateful. So why do you feel and think it's still important for people, especially for men, opening doors and helping other people?
Well, let's start with my wife. Like I said earlier, this is both of our third time around. And so I think we've finally gotten it right. And I keep telling her that I'm still setting the hook. In other words, I had to hook her like a fish. And I'm still making sure that, because I don't want her to get away. And not only do I want to tell her that, I want to show her that by my actions. And so the wife of my children, the mother of my children, rather, she used to, when we get in fights or whatever, she would say that, yeah, your words are great, but your actions don't reflect your words. Basically, that's what she said. Actions are louder than words, is what I'm trying to say. And so showing her that and telling her how much she means to me is good for me and good for her. And so I say, happy wife, happy life. And I've always opened the door for my spouse, but I never opened the door of the car and turned the seatbelt and put her in, made sure she was secure in the car. I started doing that when we first started dating. And that was a big difference for her. No one has ever done that for her. And that's really unusual, I think. And so I wanted to show her something unusual that may be a little bit uncomfortable even. It's certainly, when it's cold out, I live in northern Michigan. And so we have 6 months of winter and it's cold here. And there's, 3 feet of snow and all that. It's not easy. And so I'm making that sacrifice for her in that way of being a servant leader. She knows that she's being treated by an authentic man, and other people see it. So I've always opened the door. That was just something that you would do because of where I grew up and my parents and the way they treated each other. And I think I treat my wife better than my dad treated my mom. But he had a stroke and 2 open heart surgeries when I was very, very young. And that really changed him. And so I think that might be part of why, because they were 2 peas in a pod. They were, had 6 kids and Catholic family, and didn't seem like they were the perfect couple. But that stroke really kind of changed him. So that was hard growing up with him. And so I think that's why I was kind of a rebel anyway, being the rock and roll star and all that. So, but I don't know if I answered your question, but we're just kind of going off and riffing on this. So
yeah, for me, it's really important also for the young generation that they don't, or they're still gonna keep doing that. Just be courtesy, just open the door for people. Also, when they're older people, just be respectful and doing that for them. So I just wanted to ask why that is important, but you made a really important jump, and it is the rock and roll life. So why did you start with the rock and roll and be a drummer?
Well, my mom was also musically talented. She was an opera singer when she was in high school and college. She was also a debate student. But she recognized that when I was a little baby, I would get the pots and pans out and I would tap on them, and she noticed that I had rhythm. She said, "You have perfect rhythm." I can just hear her saying it right now. God bless her soul. And so for my first birthday, or my first Christmas rather, I was born in March. So I was 9 months old. First Christmas, she got me a set of bongos and I just loved them. And then ever since that, I got my first snare drum. In 2nd grade, I had my first gig at school with Mary Poppins. The movie Mary Poppins had come out, the original. And that was the Christmas pageant theme. And so my class marched into my drumming, to my little march that I put together. And, so I've always been connected with the music and with drums. I finally got a real drum set when I was about 11 or 12. And then I met Timmy and Dickie when I was 13. And I had a party at my house and I played my drums. I was kind of showing off. And Timmy said, "You're the drummer of my band," and Timmy, Dickie, and Paulie were the 3 Musketeers. And we started gigging. We had our first gig later that year at a youth center. And then we went on to getting paid to play gigs. And we've been gigging ever since. I have 34 shows on my calendar this year. And so it's an avocation. Now, that was a big problem between my father and I, because he was a doctor. He worked his butt off to do he was a Navy pilot, first Native American pilot to earn his wings. So he expected me to do something similar to what he did. He didn't like especially the drugs, the marijuana and whatever. He didn't like that. So, but I did. And I loved playing music. I loved performing it and getting better at it. And I learned by ear. I did take lessons early on, but I learned by ear. And then I became a singer, and I sing in my church in the choir. I'm a cantor at church, but I still do the rock and roll thing. In fact, I love music so much. It's funny though, I don't really listen to a lot of music unless I'm learning a song or something for my band. But I saw Earth, Wind and Fire last night with my wife, and that was amazing. But yeah, music was just a big, huge draw. And we had lots of live bands come to our school. And we really, really got into that. We modeled ourselves after Grand Funk Railroad, which was a band from Flint, Michigan. And I've met and jammed with them since in my adult years, but we just loved it. And we've been doing it ever since. And so my friend Dickie passed away last July, and my buddy Timmy had a number of accidents and things like that. So, but he's still playing. And of course I am. I have a gig this weekend. So that's just a thing that's a creative outlet for me, as is writing. It's just been a draw. That fuels my passion. And it also helps release a lot of tension. But there's a lot of music expression, especially playing the drums. I mean, if you can play the drums in a way, and I'm not really technical or like Neil Peart from Rush. He's, like one of the world's most famous drummers. But when you can play in a club, you can play a beat and you can see people tapping their feet and dancing and just grooving with the thing that you're laying down. You're driving the band. So if you go and see a band and you go, there's something wrong with this band, there's something off, it's usually the drummer who's not laying down that thing that people can really groove to. So that just lights me up, as does other things in business.
You know what I like about it, Paul, is that you had something really early at a young age and you're still super passionate about it. I can hear it how you talk and how you present it. And that's really cool. I never had that I was born and something that I was a child and something that I was so fascinated about. For me, I was just fear. The only thing that was in my life was fear. I was so afraid to do anything. I was afraid of women. I was just stay most of my life at home playing video games and watching pornography and just fleeing, just running away and just hope that I won't get hurt or I won't get beat up or stuff like that. So I'm not really jealous, but sometimes I wish that I know everything that happens for me happens for a reason. But it's so cool that people have, like you, like in a young age, have this powerful gift, especially when you play here by ear. That's so cool. I hear many people talk about that, and that's super awesome. But it is what it is, and everybody has their own journey, and maybe I did it in my past life. But I just wanted to say that out loud, that it's really cool that you had something in your life from a young age and you're still passionate about. So that's really, really cool. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You don't always have it. Sometimes it takes a while to really find your groove. And for me,
that's true.
It's taken a long time for me to get sober, to turn my back. I mean, really, it's never too late to turn your back on life that doesn't serve you or your family or your community or God. It's never too late. It's never too late to change. And you're never too far gone either. And it's not too late to take on something new. Like, you've got this fabulous podcast, you're helping men, you're in your groove, and you're a really good interviewer, you're listening, you're a good listener. So those are some admirable traits as well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Usually a lot of people say that if you're a good listening, you can listening really well. So I think that's also the reason that I started podcasting, because I can listen to my guest and what comes up, I will ask. So yeah, you're right. Everybody has their own specialities. I know everybody has their gifts, and it's really important to really find your gift, right? Especially when we as human beings, we have something really powerful, something really important to share. So it's really important for us to discover. Like you said, you can have your old life, but you say, I just want something else. So it's really important that you follow your heart and really go towards what you want to do, right?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned fear when you talked about fear, and I've had a lot of fear too in my life. Being in the IT field, and I was always in the field, the type of IT, I guess you would call it management information systems, where you're focused on the technology that drives business profitability and operations versus the bits and bytes and the networks and the cables and fiber optic, all the details of how to make a computer run. I've always been focused on how to help the business be more efficient, how to grow without increasing overhead, and managing systems that people, process, and technology that can drive the business forward, and training people and working with them. But being in that role has always put me in the background. Even though I'm a drummer, I'm behind the drum set. So even when I'm on stage, I'm behind the drum set. Now, when I'm a singer at church, I'm there by myself. I'm a soloist. So that took a little bit of getting over the fear. But one of my clients came to me. She's a mindset coach, and she helps people get over the imposter syndrome, which everyone, lots of people struggle with that, including me. And I had a session with her because she goes, Paul, how come you're not more visible? How come you're not out there like, the people that you're competing with? And I said, frankly, I'm afraid. And I'm afraid of being visible. And here's why. And I made up an excuse as to why I thought it was, which was, I had a full-time job. Working a full-time job, I'm old school. So I'm a baby boomer. You work for a job, you got to be loyal. This is the only thing that you do, and those kinds of things. And people that I worked for are of the same mind. So I didn't want to have that intersection and say, okay, I'm going to be called out. And sometimes we're afraid of things that really would never happen, and so they're not going to fire me because I helped their business grow, and, I've made them millions of dollars in growing. But I was afraid of being visible. But then when I had this session, what I realized was, and it was through the therapy that I was having with this lady, with my client, it was fear. It was because I wasn't good enough for my father.
It's the trauma that rises. The trauma is taking the front seat.
Yeah. And so until that day on his deathbed, I didn't feel like he was ever proud of me.
That's rough.
And so when I overcame that, or when I realized that, I said, well, that happened so long ago. And I know he's proud of me, not because of what I did. It's because of who I am. It's not what you do is the important thing. It's who you are. So I know that he's proud of me. And so what did I do? I started a podcast. So how more visible are you going to be if you have your own show that you're the host, you're the star, and you bring on these great guests? But it's you. It's a powerful role, but it's a humble role too, because now you're interviewing other people who have done things that you haven't done, maybe, or who know things that you don't know, maybe, or maybe it's someone who is an ideal client for you. But nonetheless, you're on YouTube, we're live streaming this right now. Whoever can tune in. So there could be millions, there could be hundreds, there could be one, but we're putting ourselves out there. So I started a podcast because of my fear for being seen. And on top of that, I went to my boss at the time and said, this is what I'm doing. I'm preparing for this. I'm going to be retiring, and I'm going to be coaching, and I've got this podcast, and I'm using this for this reason. It may be when I have to leave the office and come back and do an interview or whatever, I'll let you know. And he said, yeah, just don't let it interfere with your day-to-day stuff, your day-to-day duties. And that was fine. And that was the other fear that I had, because in a way, my boss was my father figure, right? And I didn't want to disappoint him either. And so those childhood things, fears that we have, that we don't even realize that we are protecting ourselves from, they impact your life all your decision making, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you stand up on stage, or, the way that you interact with people. You're guarded sometimes because of those fears. So recognizing what they are and getting over them and just letting them live. And I think letting them live, that fear live, and say, okay, this is not going to happen anymore. You just let that fear grow and dissipate. And there's a process for that called the peace process that I learned from Christian Michelson, and there's been books written about it. But anyways, we were talking about fear, but yeah, we all have our fears. We all have to deal with them in our own way. I think they make us stronger if we can let them. There's always opportunity in every adversity that we face. And as Napoleon Hill said, we just have to seize the opportunity and move along, because all we have is the present anyway. Usually we're afraid of something that happened in the past that might happen in the future, but it's ruining our present.
I totally agree. And I fully resonate with what you said. So thank you so much for sharing. And for my side, it was with women. I had a lot of fear towards women, to walk up to them, talk to them. And every time I wanted to do that, my body was just freezing up and I was just shaking and I couldn't do anything. But I didn't realize it was traumatized. It was trauma that was still running through my system. I've been traumatized with my mom. and she in a way rejected me when I was a child. So
Hmm.
my inner
So
child said,
sorry.
"Oh no, no women, because if I talk with somebody, I might get rejected. I might get
Mhm.
hurt so much again in the past that I don't do it." But my body was just constantly responding to this fear. So every time I was shaking, and I couldn't talk I couldn't say anything. And it's been there for decades, for years and years and years. And then one day I was walking in the street and I saw a really attractive lady walking, and I couldn't walk up to her, and I said, "It's enough. I cannot do this anymore. I cannot waste my entire life just controlling this fear," because I didn't understand it. Because in my head, there was no fear. I can just walk up to her, I can say, "Hi, how was your day?" But my body was just fighting and just wanted to run away. So I said, "It's enough. I cannot do this anymore." So I got help. I saw a psychologist. He helped me with EMDR. And then I
Mm.
realized it's really the trauma in the body. The body keeps the score. And from there, I really start to learn more about it. But also, once I did the EMDR, I've really felt slowly more at peace. Still, I have small triggers, or I go into the head and say, "Oh, so much fear." But
Yeah.
once, like what I want to say or add on your what you said is, once you overcome that fear step by step, you will realize it's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
I made it a big deal because I was so afraid of the rejection. But if she says no, I won't get hurt, I won't get damaged, I'm still standing there. But the word no was such a big word. It had so
Mhm.
much meaning and impact on me. So I really had to learn to let go. And if she says no, it's fine, it's okay. But there was so many noise in the head and so many anxiety, and what will people think of me? And then I realized also through other coaching that I had to go out of the head and into the heart. And
Yeah.
that changed everything for me. Still, it's the challenge. Like you said, you have to, if you start the healing journey, you still have to go to challenges, you have to try things. But it isn't so bad. But what I want to go to is really the trauma. So, Paul, how is it important for men also to heal our traumas?
Well, first, I think we have to recognize that we've had trauma, and that's sometimes hard to face. You mentioned EMDR. I'd like to follow up on that to hear about that more. But
Sure.
men have a role to lead in their homes, in their businesses, and in the world. Women have their role, and it's not the same as men. And maybe that's a controversial statement, but that's the role that we were given by God, was to lead spiritually and to provide, to be providers. That's why we're built the way we're built. But when we have trauma, sometimes that takes away from our ability to be authentic, to be humble, to be good leaders, and because we're afraid to take that next step, afraid to take a risk, afraid of what others might think of us. That's why I think, to answer your question, that we need to face our fears, we need to face our trauma and seek wise counsel. What you sought, psychologists, it might be a mentor that you need to seek, or a coach, or a therapist or medical doctor, or whatever it might be, depending on severity of the trauma. But we have this calling, both spiritually, physically, mentally, sexually, to be authentic and to be true and to be what we're called to be. So if we can't be that 100% because we have a trauma, then we aren't living up to our calling. And we should, like you said, our purpose or our mission, or whatever you want to call it. But we're not going to be able to do that as effectively as we can. And people look up to us. People look up to men and women in leadership roles. Women have really the same calling. They have a purpose as well. And in leadership, we all have to face our fears, face our traumas, and to get the help that we need to become better leaders, better husbands, better wives, better fathers, better brothers and sisters, the best version of ourselves, as they say. So I think it's important. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. If I didn't get help, I would still be the same. I would be sitting here because my life was a roller coaster effect. So one day I was okay, I was stable, and one day I was just crashing and I was just crying and felt awful and beating myself up. And why can I not talk to women? And why can I do this podcast? Because I was not stable. And then I said, I cannot do this alone. I wanted to solve everything by myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
said to myself, I need to get help. I need special help. I need somebody that understands what I'm going through. And also with the EMDR, I highly recommend it. But it changed everything for me. And it took a lot of courage to get out of my comfort zone and also put my ego on the side and say, I need to get help. somebody really needs to help me. So that's what I want to share. If you're struggling, like Paul said, look for special help. Look for somebody that can help you. If you're okay with your traumas but still want help from a mentor, you can do that. But really listen to it. Listen to your inner feeling. Listen to your gut feeling. If something is off and you feel you cannot continue like this, get help. So that's what I wanted to say. It's really, really important.
Yeah, I think we tend to hesitate, but I was really stuck. At one point, I quit coaching altogether, but it was from some other reasons. But if I look back on it, I had a partner. We had a dual coach or dual host mastermind. And he and I, brought in people, but he was the one who was supposed to bring in the people. And I ran the mastermind. And we had a falling out and just a difference of how we weren't growing. And he was more interested in this part of his business that didn't involve me at all. And I felt like I was just being used, so I just quit and fired him basically, and quit coaching altogether because I was fed up with it. If I look back on it, it was really because of that fear of being visible and being out there and doing this on myself and selling and all those things that you need to do if you're going to do it on your own. It took me a while to figure that out, but it was that one person, two people really. One person came to me and said, "Hey, Paul, you should start a podcast." Yeah, maybe someday I'll do that. Yeah, right. And then she was a client and I respected her. And she said, "How come you're not more visible? You're great at what you do." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Well, yeah, look at the results you've gotten me in this group." But it wasn't until then that I said, "Okay, I will start that podcast. I will take this bull by the horns, so to speak, and just go and do it. And I'll find my way." And it was uncomfortable at first, and some days I get uncomfortable on my podcast because a lot of times I've got some people on my show that are just super smart, super smart and super successful, and more so than I. It can be intimidating, but I'm just there to pull out their story, and so if I just remind myself of that, things go. So getting over your trauma and your fears is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. And now you mentioned EMDR, and for the audience, what is EMDR, and is that something you can do at home, or do you need a therapist for that?
You need a therapist for that. With EMDR, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's with eye movement. So you have
Yeah.
like a bar, or they can do it with the fingers, and then it will go left and right. So he says, envision what you're going through. So you need to bring up the trauma or the feeling, this anxiety, what you feel, or it's anxiety. And then he says, focus on the light. And then he goes with the light, like left and right. And then the first time that they did it, I broke completely. I just started to cry, and I felt a relief. And then he said, okay, again. And then when he stops, what do you feel? So he always asked me, what do you feel? And then I said, I felt exactly the same way when I was with women. Exactly. But there was no women in the room, only him and me. And I said, this is so strange. I feel exactly the same way again. And I had to focus on that feeling. And then slowly I felt better. But in the beginning, I was sick a lot. I felt so bad. And also I had fever. I was staying in bed for a couple of days, and it was so intense. When you do EMDR, some days just walk off right away, but I had really, in the beginning, some really hard time. I was sweating, and just the trauma was so deep and so integrated that it takes a lot of time. But it's I don't know how to explain, but it's really, really powerful, EMDR.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've not undergone that before, but it does seem similar to the peace process. And
Okay.
what was it called? There's a book called Feel the Feeling. When you have that feeling, let's say you have a fear of speaking in public, and maybe you're called to deliver a report to the executive committee at your job or whatever, or just stand up at church and say a few words. When you approach that, you get butterflies, right? So where are those butterflies? Where are they at? And so you focus on where that feeling is. This process doesn't require you to, I guess you can relive it, but if you can bring that feeling up in your body, it doesn't matter if it's the feeling because you're afraid to speak in public, or you're afraid of heights, you get that same feeling in your body. You focus on that, and you breathe, of course, and you focus on it, and you just send it love. Instead of trying to get rid of it, you let it go. You let it live, and sometimes it'll move in your body, and it'll go over here, and then You keep checking in to see how you feel, and you can do it by yourself or you can do it with a partner, but it doesn't require a therapist. But it's the same sort of thing where, and I don't know if it works with deep trauma. I think it would, but it allows that feeling to dissipate. So when you're in that situation, you can come back to that process and let it live. Because a lot of times we're just trying to not feel it. We just don't want to feel it. We're running away from it instead of embracing it and letting it live. And I think that's kind of like when you mentioned how leaders should approach getting over their traumas and just letting that trauma live, and something that's happened to you in the past. It's not, it doesn't have to affect you now. It could be a situation that you're in, then you might need to get out of that situation. But I think you just need to let it live and then let it go.
True. Yeah, letting go is really, really important. It's really, once I learned to let go, it really helped me to live better and not to
Yeah.
deal with things that wasn't there. So yeah, letting go is really, really powerful. And I really love the mindset that you have, Paul. It's really, really powerful. So I want to go a little bit more into your business. So can you share with us what you really do with your business? It's really fascinating.
Yeah, like I said, back in when I was 27, I discovered that $80,000, and I knew there was urgency, and I didn't realize it, but I'd been building a framework over many years that I follow. Getting that money in, getting that billing in electronically, I had created a system that allowed it to do that. So that enabled other people to bill electronically for the insurance and to make that business profitable. They would have lost that $80,000. Now that wouldn't have crippled the company. They probably wouldn't have even have noticed it when we found it. So that idea of speed and systematic approach to solving business problems is what I help people do. So for instance, I have a system that is called the speed framework. And what it does is, let me just tell you a story and I'll tell you how it would work.
Sure.
Last year, my wife and I had an addition put on our home. We remodeled our garage and turned it into living space. And in doing so, we installed a heat pump, which is a combination air conditioner and heater. And so it was starting to get cold on. We turned that thing on and it didn't work. And so we're going, uh-oh. We did what anybody would do. We turned to the search engines, Google, and HVAC contractors in my area. And the first ones pop up and it said, oh, I recognize them. And they had Google business reviews on there. And I went, oh, I'm going to call. And you could even click on their phone number and call them. So I did. Well, it was after hours and I got a recording and I got an instant email, but they didn't follow up until about 12 or 14 hours later. So meanwhile, it wasn't terribly cold, fortunately. It was in the fall. But I called the next contractor and it took them, they never called me back. And then so finally I called my friend, actually the singer in one of my bands, and he's a retired HVAC, heating and ventilation and cooling pro, and he came over and fixed it. Meanwhile, the first company that finally did call me back said, oh, well, we can come out on Friday. It'll be $1,800, and which is more than that heat pump even costs. So responding quickly and escalating prioritizing the response, escalating it to a human when necessary, engaging across different channels like text or direct message on socials, depending on where that inquiry came in from. You need a system to be able to respond to that. And then you need to direct them to an action, whether it would be schedule an estimate or an appointment or an emergency appointment. That's my speed framework. So I have systems that I enable business owners to be able to respond within 5 minutes, because after 5 minutes, your likelihood of connecting with a prospect goes down by 100%. After 30 minutes, goes down 400%. And only 7% of business owners, businesses respond within 5 minutes. So you have a real lever if you can respond quickly and get it to a human if it's necessary. Otherwise, you can send off a proposal or your price sheet or whatever it might be, or a way to get engaged with you. So that's the kind of systems that we create, and I coach people on how to implement them. I implement them for them, and also once you have a system like that, you need to get people into your funnel, into your business. Like I teach people how to do podcasting. and other means of getting people to come to your business, whether it be a partner network or those kinds of things, different traffic methods. So, and I've just written the book about speed. In fact, I've written 5 books on the speed, called The Speed Advantage, and that's coming out on Amazon very soon. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what I do. In a nutshell, I enable people to respond faster, prioritize those inquiries, escalate it to a human being, and direct them to the next action that's necessary to turn that inquiry into a client.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Paul. And I really like what you do also, that you build businesses, but also build it from the heart. So it's not just about
Yeah.
creating business and getting profit. It's really how to help people and how to serve them and really get something meaningful for them. So thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And yeah, I have 2 more questions for you until we're gonna close the episode. But the first question that I have for men that are listening right now or later, what advice can you give them for them to start their healing journey? And also when they start their own business, because you see today it's getting harder. Everything is getting more expensive. You don't know if you still have the 9 to 5, all of that. So you have to start doing a podcast or something else on the side until you can do it fully, something from your heart that you're really passionate about. So what advice can you give to them for them start doing that?
Well, that was a multi-part question there. What was the first part of your question? I'm sorry, I was listening to the whole thing. What was the first
The
part?
trauma based. So if they having trauma, so what is the best way for them to start? You mentioned something with meditation or something like that with the program.
Yeah. First of all, what I think that they should do is come to realize that, okay, we've got this trauma. We might be living a life of dissipation. We might be, whatever that might mean to you, whatever that might be. It's really hard to change your direction, especially when you're in kind of a rut. First of all, I would seek help, but you need to recognize that you're in a rut. And a lot of reasons why you're in a rut is because there are habits that you use to keep yourself in that rut. So you need to recognize those and change your habits. But before you can do that, you need a really good reason to do it. For me, it was the distance I had between my sons and I was really about to lose everything in my relationship with them. And it's been a long journey back to win their trust. But I had to realize that I wasn't a lost cause. It's never too late, like I said before, to change your ways. And you're never too bad to make a change. So you need to just realize that it's okay to have this past. And I like to say every saint has a past and every sinner a future. So everyone can change, and it just takes some courage and faith and persistence to do it. So you just have to say, okay, I've had enough, just like you did. You said, I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. And you need to have a powerful enough reason to say that, and to say, I'm not going to experience this any longer. I'm not going to lose my kids. I'm not going to lose my wife. I'm not going to lose my job, my cars, my house, whatever that might be. I'm not doing that anymore. You have to make that decision. It's a decision. It's a choice. So you must do that. When I don't know if you know the story of the prodigal son, but he and his brother, he approached his father and said, "Give me all my inheritance now." And so his dad gave him his inheritance, and then he went off to a far off land, and he squandered that money on sex, drugs, and rock and roll, let's say. And then he realized, he came to his senses, and he said, I can't even eat. I'm starving, and I'm farming these pigs, and they're getting food, and I'm not. So I'm going to go back to my father and say, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I don't even belong. I don't need to be called your son. Treat me as your servant. And the father saw him coming off far off, and ran to him and was overjoyed that he came back, because what was lost is now found. And so every man can be found, and everyone who's lost can be found, because there's a father waiting for him to come home. And so knowing that, that's a reason to, in a way, to come back, come to your senses, come home, come back home, come to where you belong. So that's the first thing. And when you've done that, and while you're doing it, because it might take you a while, find out what you love to do. Find out what you love to do, but most of all, is it something that people want? Like, people want to be healed. Men need community, which is why I'm starting a men's group. I'm a part of a men's group starting up. Men need to be belong. They need community and fellowship, and that's where you can get that mentorship, that community to help support you. And then if there's a mission that you want, if you want to start a side hustle, do something that people want. A lot of times people try these, I had this great invention idea, and there's all these things that they build before they even find out if anybody wants it. So it's important that you don't build something that nobody wants. But you can do it, and I've done it. I'm doing it, part-time, having done part-time, having a business for 15, 20 years now, coaching on the side with having a full-time job. It's possible to do it, and you just do it maybe 1 hour a day at a time. And I call that the power of incremental action. So you've got a goal, and you chip away at it. You know what the steps are that need to be done. You chip away at just a little bit at a time, because you can't eat the whole elephant. You know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So you just work at it one incremental action at a time, just bit by bit, the slight edge, and you keep doing that with persistence and having unquenchable faith in yourself and faith in your God, that you are meant to do these things and you can do it. So, but you also have to have that resolve to do it. And then making those little incremental actions are easy. You just have to be resolved to do it and have faith.
Perfect. There's nothing to add. It's you laid it out really nice. And what I want to add is consistency. Just keep going at it. There's going to be rough times and hard times, but if you keep going, you will definitely make it. So my final question, I will always ask this to my guests: what was the most difficult time in your life that you had to go through, and what was the most achieving thing that you had in your life?
The most difficult time was when my wife and I were separated. She moved out of the house. She took my 3 boys because she couldn't stand living with me anymore. And I was a drunk and a druggie, and I had an affair with just a toxic relationship. And then she turned out to be an alcoholic, and which I didn't see. I didn't see that happening, but she was an alcoholic, and she come home from work drunk every day, and I just got so sick and tired of it. I did not want to live that way anymore. And then she kind of drove through her addiction. She drove the kids away, and my wife wouldn't let me. My ex-wife now wouldn't let the kids come over to where I was living. Just very, very limited. I couldn't see them on holidays, and it was just. And one Labor Day in the United States, Labor Day weekend is one of the first week in September, and I went on a binge, and got in a fight. That girl I was with, she threw me out of the house, and I went on a long weekend binge. And on Labor Day, I was drunk and, wasn't feeling any pain. The next day I had to go to work. And so that day, I couldn't stand just sitting there at my desk waiting for 5 o'clock to come around. I just could not wait. And I had a choice. If you've ever been, if you drink every day, you know that if you're hungover, if you had something too much that day, you can always go and get some more alcohol and drink some more, and you'll feel better. But it'll start all over again. And so I had a choice that day and I was so hungover and so sweaty and feeling terrible. And so I had a choice to either go and get some more alcohol or go home and sleep and rest and turn my back on that. And that's what I did. I turned my back, and I haven't had a drink since that day. It was September 8th, I think, 2008. So 17, 18 years ago. So that was my low point. And so from that point, I made a plan to save up my money, because I needed to get out of that relationship and get out on my own for the first time in my life. I would never been on my own. I'd always been with the next relationship, the next marriage, whatever it would be, and get out on my own, get sober, get fit, and rebuild my relationship with my kids, with my sons, and that's the direction I've been on ever since. So that single moment, that decision that I made today, that resolve to come home like the prodigal son, that was my low point and my high point. Both. That point in time changed my life forever. And so that was the most successful thing I've ever done, was to quit drinking and turn my life around.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for your bravery. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. And just by one decision can change everything. And you could also choose to stay at the same place, but you choose to change your life. So,
yeah.
So my biggest respect for you, Paul, for doing what you do and also helping people to achieve their dreams, their desires. And it's been an absolute honor. It's been amazing having you on the show. I enjoyed every second talking to you. You're such an inspiring person. And
well, thank you.
For sure. You only shared just one small part of it, but I was so hooked on your story of who you are and what you have to offer. So thank you so much. And before we go, how can the followers, how can the listeners follow you?
Well, they can find me on LinkedIn, paulguyon.com. That's Paul Guyon, Guyon. They can just find me on LinkedIn. Or I've prepared a little guide called Lead from the Heart, a reflection guide for men who are ready to come home. Cool. And you can get that at leadmachinegrowthshow.com/heart. And there's no opt-in required. And if you want to talk, you can reach out to me there on my podcast website. You can contact me there. You can be, if you're a business owner and you want to be on my show, you can do that. Or if you'd like me to be on your show, you can connect with me there. And I'm also on Facebook at Paul Guyon Official. It's a brand new profile. I'll be transparent about it. I have another profile that's out there that I know Vincent through, and I made the decision today to change and to create a new profile because Facebook, I was hacked 3 years ago. My business account, my business ad manager account was hacked, and I could never get them to relinquish authority over it. So I just said, okay, I'm done with that. And so I've got a new account, Paul Guyon Official. You can reach me there, and definitely check out the guide if you're interested. It's just 3 pages, real easy, some reflections, similar to what we talked about today. But that's leadmachinegrowthshow.com/heart.
Excellent. I will put everything in the show notes so everybody has access to it. And again, Paul, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you've been here on the show. I've learned so much from you.
Thank
It's
you.
been an absolute honor again, and hopefully we can do another one in the future because you have so much to share, so much to share with the audience, and it's been amazing. So thank you so much, Paul.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been a really powerful episode. And if you like more about what I do, like and subscribe to the show, How to Heart. You can find it on Facebook, LinkedIn, on all my social media, and for YouTube as well. And also, I post my own journey as well, what I've going through, what I've learning. So you can always follow me there. Thank you so much. I have one last thing that I want to share because you really said you really liked the intro of the show. So this is my editor. I want to give him the shout out. He's really cool. So he made it for me, and I just wanted to share it. Give some love
nice
to
job,
the people.
Steve.
Thank
Nice
you.
job.
Absolutely. So guys, again, thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best. Take care. Bye.
Take care.
Hey Lions, thank you for listening on this journey with me to reconnect with your heart. If you like the show, please like and drop a 5-star rating. And to help us keep the show going, consider supporting one of our affiliate offers. How do you raise your vibration? For an easy way to raise your vibration and support your health using biofeedback, check out the Healy tool. I'm a rep for it because I believe in frequency healing. Check the show notes for details. See you next time.